What's up, y'all? My name is Noah Kahan, and I am hanging out with Rob on Front Row Live.
I first got introduced to you by Quinn XCII last year, and I saw that you guys got to collaborate together on his track "Tough."
Yeah.
How did that kind of collaboration happen for the two of you?
Well, it was kind of an interesting situation. He followed me on Twitter, and I was like, all right, something's coming. Then he started liking some tweets. I was like, uh-oh, it's getting really serious. And then he slid into my DMs, and I've been a fan of his forever. I mean, I listened to his music since I was in high school, and yeah, I don't know. He's a huge. I mean, me and all my friends love his music, and we're all huge fans. So having him reach out and ask me to write a verse for Tough was so cool, and it was really especially cool because he kind of took note of, I guess, like my sense of humor and his sense of humor are similar, and he took note, and I tried to write something funny, and it ended up being like a dream collaboration for me. So it was awesome. So grateful for him reaching out.
What was your experience kind of collaborating with him? Even if it was that one single line that you guys got to write together, but I'm sure like that line took a lot of behind the scenes to actually create it.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting song, and what I love about the song is that it kind of isn't your traditional tune. It's coming from a really interesting angle of approaching this idea of insecurity and kind of fragile masculinity, I guess.
Yeah.
And with a lot of humor. And so what I wanted to do was kind of find the funniest, most obvious stereotypes about big douchey guys at the gym and write a song about it. So I already had a few in the back of my head. I'm obviously not the most in shape person in the world, so I really felt the message of the song, I guess. I really connected with how weak and fragile I am, and I kind of just dug into that insecurity of mine. And next thing you know, you have the verse. Yeah, and it was cool. He likes to be in control of his tunes, and I love that he has a command over what he wants and how he wants things to sound. He was very involved in the process of kind of recording and vocals and everything. So it was awesome. He's a great collaborator.
Yeah. Now I also saw that you were actually featured on Griffin's debut album also, and you got to collaborate with him. So that's another artist that I grew up kind of like. He's still like a new artist to a lot of people, but like it's an artist I've been watching for some time, and I'm like so excited for his like career to just like build up. How did that collaboration happen, and what was that chemistry like between the two of you?
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, it's funny. I like about a week before he reached out to me on Instagram, I was like super hammered at his show at Lollapalooza. Like, this is so cool, dude. He's playing the guitar. So I've been a fan of his music for a long time. I actually I wrote a top line for Gryffin like when I first started 3 or 4 years ago, and it was super awful. So I was like, this is my chance to redeem myself. He reached out, and he had the song already written by a good friend of mine, and him, Sander Cavassa, who's a wonderful singer and awesome guy. And they wrote this tune, and Gryffin felt like I would do well on it. And I don't always take songs that I don't write myself, just because I'm really kind of precious about what I have to say. But I felt like the song was really special and really beautiful, and I thought that I could do it justice, and I was honored. So we recorded that song in New York, and we did it in about 2 hours because I had to go to soccer practice at 6, and we started at 4. So pretty rushed. We got it done, and took some tweaking, but it came out really well. So it was cool. It was awesome, man. It's always cool to collaborate with people that I'm a fan of. So
And it's also cool because you have different collaborations. It's not the same genre. It's not the same kind of style. So I'm sure when you were prepping for these collaborations, you were also in the process of creating your debut album, which is out now. Busyhead, correct? So, like, did they kind of play a role in an influence or an impact as you were kind of working on this album after you got to collaborate with them?
yeah, I think in terms of collaboration for me, making sure I can be diverse as a songwriter is really important. And saying what I have to say, of course, is my ultimate goal. But kind of making sure that I can be a diverse songwriter and dip my toes into a lot of different ponds, I guess, is important to me. So being able to do an electronic project with Gryffin and kind of a more urban pop-ish project with Quinn, and then being able to do kind of my folk pop stuff at the same time is cool. And I want to expand my horizons when it comes to collaborating. Absolutely.
Yeah. So talk to me about this debut EP or debut album, because it took you some time to kind of create it. It's been a work that you've been working on for some time. So what is it about this body of work that you felt was the right way to introduce the world to you?
Right. I think you have your debut record is your whole life up until that point. A couple of the songs I'd written a long time ago, and many of them I kind of wrote as I was getting some success and I was releasing singles and I was dealing with these kind of changes in my life, and I was writing these tunes as little vignettes into my life as a kind of budding musician. And I just felt like each song really spoke to me and my team as I wrote them, and they spoke to the story, and I wanted to make sure that in releasing a record, I made sure that it was cohesive and felt like there was a narrative to the music. And I feel like as the puzzle pieces kind of came into play with those songs being written, the narrative was created, and there came a point where we felt like we had told the story. And it starts with false confidence, kind of a whimsical song about not taking yourself super seriously, and it ends with the Carlos song, which is kind of an important memorial to a friend I've lost. And it's in between those songs there are a bunch of different stories about my life, and I think I've written a lot of songs. I wrote over 100 songs in 2017, and the ones that are on the record are the only ones I feel like should be there.
Yeah. Now you mentioned some of the songs you wrote a long time ago. So now that they're on the record, is it the same exact song that you had written a long time ago, or did you kind of tweak it? Did you kind of recreate it, remaster it? Like, what happened with these tracks?
Right. I mean, I feel like as I've gotten more into touring and more into playing these tunes, I've gotten better as a musician. So we want to make sure that we're kind of giving a clear idea of how my musicianship is now. So, we recorded each tune. A couple of the tunes we didn't re-record for the record, but the ones we did record specifically for the record, I feel like my growth has shown. And we always want to make sure that our music feels cohesive and that there doesn't feel like there's anything that sounds older or less mature or too mature. So I think we did a good job of finding that balance.
How much impact does touring kind of play in the writing process now that you've experienced like this tour life?
Yeah, I mean, touring, it sucks to write when you're on tour because you don't really have the time nor the clarity to really be honest. I think you can be honest with yourself, but it's hard to kind of put that into a song. There's a lot of artists that do write a lot on tour, but I'm always thinking about the show from the second I wake up until the second I fall asleep. And if I'm not, performing or sound checking or doing meet and greet and VIP and getting ready, I'm kind of sitting there just being anxious generally. So so there's not a lot of time for me to write, but I do try to make sure I'm writing every day regardless, writing things down and kind of putting things into context on paper, because that's what I've just done my whole life. So it doesn't change the fact that I write every day, but it definitely changes kind of the songwriting code a little bit.
Right. And, as you open up to your audience, does that change also? Like, do you get more comfortable writing about these topics? I know in the past you've talked about like depression and anxiety. So like, do you feel more comfortable kind of opening up to your audience about those kind of topics, or do you feel like they're a lot harder now because they know so much now?
No, I actually think that the response to the music and to kind of the open honesty about my challenges and my struggles with anxiety and depression and mental illness has kind of given me the freedom to continue to explore those problems, and it's reduced the stigma in my own brain around my own issues, and it's been wonderfully cathartic. And to see people that really connect with it and really feel like they feel what I'm feeling has only inspired me to continue and push it even further. And I think any fear kind of came when I first started releasing music, and then I had this big hit song with Hurt Somebody, or a big hit in Australia with Hurt Somebody, and I felt like that was what people thought I was. And then releasing Busyhead and kind of really telling the world what I'm about has kind of given me the chance to be honest and create music that means something to me and give the world a good picture of who I actually am.
Right. Now, when you talk a little bit about anxiety, like, is that something that you kind of experienced when you would go on stage and perform to that? Now your audience is getting bigger and bigger. So is that something that you find yourself struggling with still, or do you feel like now more comfortable to just get on stage and perform and do your thing?
I think any good performer would tell you that to not have anxiety would be a problem, because you want to be nervous, you want to have that energy, that anxious energy, kind of feeling your performance and your passion. And the stakes are always high for me, and I make sure I set the stakes high for myself every night, so I'm performing at the level I know I can. But my anxiety has always been less about performing and being and getting on stage, and it has been just about general life and living a life and who I am. And performing is one of the only things I can do that really takes me away from that. Wow, nice. So that's what I love. That's what I love about performing. It gives me a chance to get away from my anxiety and get away from the depression for a minute and just really be kind of present. So it's actually an escape more than it is kind of a source of anxiety. But like I said, making sure you're always pushing yourself and always a little nervous for the show is important.
Right. What do you feel was your biggest challenge with Busyhead?
I think in terms of creating a record, I think my biggest challenge with creating Busyhead was choosing how I was going to place each song in each place and which song would go in each place, because when you're talking about a story, making sure that it's cohesive and the parts fit together is really important. So finding out where to put the songs and seeing how it would flow and kind of listening to it as a piece of work instead of kind of single by single was a challenge. But I feel like we made the right decisions, and it was cool to overcome that challenge and be satisfied with the result.
That's awesome. Now that album is out now. You're about to wrap up this North American tour that you did for the album. What else is next for you for the remainder of the year?
We're gonna be heading to Europe to tour. I'm gonna be sleeping and probably getting mono. We'll see. But more music, more touring, more writing. Hopefully more collaborating, and we got some great new tunes coming. So yeah, just doing the same thing. Hopefully staying relevant. Check this out. Like and subscribe. Please do not let me fade into obscurity. Oh my God. So yeah, just chilling, man. Writing.
Awesome, dude. Well, thanks for hanging out with me. You guys be sure to check out Noah Kahan. Debut album Busyhead is out now. And thanks for watching on Front Row Live.